Monday Night Raw opens hot and heavy with the Kingdom, Drew McIntyre, Jinder Mahal, Wade Barrett in the ring. They mean business. They immediately say, cut the music. And Wade Barrett's on the microphone, and, he immediately says, Edge, you're abusing your power, and you need to get out here right now because there is no way that a man with the level of Wade Barrett's talent could be expected to compete with an animal, with a monster like Roman Reigns. That you're putting everybody in harm's way, and this is just unacceptable. Of course, Edge's music hits immediately, and he comes down to the ring and basically mocks the Kingdom, saying that sometimes when you're in the kitchen, the heat might get turned up a little too high, and apparently Edge struck a nerve with this trio here by booking Wade Barrett in a steel cage match at Money in the Bank versus Roman Reigns. And Edge, basically goes on to egg him on a little bit and say, I guess you guys are just scared to face Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And the Kingdom, of course, rebuttals, we're not scared. It's just, it's just unfair. And the risk of injury is just way too high. And, we're superstars. And you don't want to put your superstars in that risk. And, Edge's rebuttal to that, of course, is, listen, I did this for 15 years. Maybe even a little more, and I've had my fair share of steel cage matches. You two will be all right, no big deal. And McIntyre goes on to say, kind of push it a little bit further and say that he's not scared of anybody. He'll kick Seth Rollins' ass. He'll kick Roman Reigns' ass. Whatever. It doesn't even matter. That's, of course, when Seth Rollins' music hits, and both Seth comes out first, wearing the Universal Championship, and a few seconds pass by, and then, of course, Roman Reigns comes out behind him. Seth gets on the mic and says that it's pretty apparent that the Kingdom's trembling with fear, and that they're scared to go one-on-one with anybody, and that's why they are just all about the sneak attack. And Seth goes on to say that tonight he's feeling a little feisty, and he's feeling open and ready to go ahead and fight any member of the Kingdom. Doesn't matter who. Jinder Mahal wants a piece of him before their championship match. Bring it on. Wade Barrett, if you want to get worked over a little bit before your steel cage match, I'm here to do the job for you. And Drew McIntyre, if you want to back up your words and your statement of saying that you'll kick either one of our asses, I'm standing right here, pal. And Edge, before any of the Kingdom can even answer, Edge just gets on the mic and says, you know what, that's a great idea. So in the main event, we're going to see Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre right here tonight on Raw. So Edge books a match. The Kingdom obviously would be flipping out, not happy about this, but it is what it is. The match is booked, folks. So this got us off to a hot start. Got a B. Rollins and Edge, and Wade Barrett, and Drew McIntyre all performed well. going off script. So that's good. And then somehow Wade Barrett performed well and underperformed in the same segment. Welcome to TEW, ladies and gentlemen. It's got us a B. Just continues the story between these five guys here. Of course, Edge playing the role of the babyface kind of booker is always going to try to hamper this trio any way that he can. And tonight it's by booking a match between our Universal Champion and Drew McIntyre. The steel cage match is still on, so Edge is not going to change that match, despite Wade Barrett's efforts. Up next, we get the finals of the Cruiserweight Championship tournament. In a bout that had decent wrestling, little heat, Kushida defeats Mustafa Ali in 14 minutes and 48 seconds by pinfall with the Midnight Express. So Kushida moves on and wins the Cruiserweight Championship, and he will face Buddy Murphy next week on Monday Night Raw, the go-home edition before Money in the Bank, the pay-per-view, and it will be for the Cruiserweight Championship. Match got a C-, building both these guys up. They actually are two of the most over cruiserweights at this point. So both of them had a lot of good momentum. This spot was kind of really always for Ali, but I decided to bring Kushida up, and I kind of changed a few things around, and went with Kushida instead, as I really wanted a really good in-ring guy to go against Buddy Murphy. So Kushida moving on. After the match, the two shake hands in the middle of the ring, showing a mutual respect that they have for one another. Just a really quick handshake. Nothing crazy. Kushida, bows to Ali, and they kind of go their separate ways. From there, we go to a backstage promo. Actually, not a backstage promo. My mistake. It's a pre-recorded footage of Matt and Jeff Hardy. They are at the Broken Hardy Ranch, and they basically say that as much fun as they've had with this Broken Hardy's journey, it's time to return to their true form and their true roots. It's time to return to what brought them to superstardom in professional wrestling. It's time for the real Hardy Boys to return at Money in the Bank in the ladder match for the tag titles against the Revival. Because for them, they're not only fighting for the championships, but they're fighting for North Carolina pride. This is kind of turned into the Battle of North Carolina. All four of these guys reside in Carolina, so I'm kind of like using that as little motivation here. But the Hardys kind of say that the broken stuff is in the past. You're not going to see the goofy, funny Hardy Boys. The delete is as much fun as they've had with it. Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder are getting the Team Extreme that's willing to do anything, and Jeff goes so far as to say that he's willing to take risks that he's never taken before, and that it's the Revival's just not going to be able to handle it. So, C-rated segment. Both improvised well. They wanted to go off script, so I let them, and it was a home run. So just adding fuel to the fire between these two teams. From there, We get another backstage segment. This is in the locker room. And it's between Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. Roode's coaching Gable up, giving him tips, giving him pointers, pointing out the fact that he's got a huge match up next against the number one contender for the WWE Universal Championship, Jinder Mahal. Bobby will be out there on commentary supporting Chad Gable. But he really, he's kind of coaching him up, giving him tips, giving him some weaknesses of Jinder, and Bobby, wishes Chad the best of luck, and he says it'll be right there at ringside, to cheer him on and wish him luck. This got a C. And that brings us right into the match between the two, which, unfortunately for Chad Gable, he loses again. Jinder Mahal defeats Chad Gable in 10 minutes and 12 seconds with the sands of time following interference by Wade Barrett. And the key here is, I think you guys see kind of where I'm heading in the story that I'm telling, and the previous screen sort of ruined it there by saying the hints of a heel turn or whatever. But Bobby's going to be on commentary here, and he's not going to leave the commentary booth. And in fact, what he's going to do is he's going to put over the fact that, this is a lesson for Chad Gable. And this is stuff that a tag team partner that is teaming with the glorious Bobby Roode needs to overcome. He needs to overcome obstacles. Couldn't overcome the obstacles. And Jinder and Wade cost Gable the match. And then after the match, boom. Chad Gable, Wade Barrett, Jinder Mahal continue to beat down on Chad Gable, and the entire time, Bobby Roode just stays at the commentary booth, and basically puts over the fact that this is tough love, that this is a lesson Gable needs to learn. He's been a weak link in this team, and this is it. We're here, and we are gonna toughen him up, and we're gonna teach him a lesson. Because Bobby Roode is tired of losing, and until Chad Gable learns, Roode is not gonna put his reputation on the line for the guy. You'd have like Michael Cole just flipping out and, but you've lost too. Like, you've been pinned in the middle of the ring too. Like, what, So, some good work on the mic. And this got a pretty good rating as a C. From there, we would get a huge, woman's segment. And this would start off with a moment of bliss with Lacey Evans and Alexa Bliss. They would be boasting about their tag title victory over the Boss and Hug Connection last week on Monday Night Raw. And they would be putting over the fact that they're the greatest women's tag team to ever be formed in one night and beat Sasha and Bayley to win the women's tag team championships. Just really working the crowd for the heat. And then they point out the fact that, there was clearly dissension in the ranks with Sasha and Bayley. And it was obvious for everybody to see, but everybody is going to hear right from the woman herself, their guest, right here tonight on A Moment of Bliss. Former WWE Raw Women's Tag Team Champion, Sasha Banks. Sasha would come out, and she would kind of explain her decision, and explain exactly what, you know, is going on in her mind, and she would basically say that, you know, Bayley isn't as innocent as, you know, everybody thinks that she is, that, you know, she's actually filled with, you know, tons of jealousy, and that she's been jealous of Sasha ever since their time in NXT, and that, you know, Bayley's always been upset that she's never been able to be in the spotlight, and that women like Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss and, you know, unfortunately Becky Lynch and even Charlotte have always been in the spotlight here in WWE, but Bayley never got that opportunity. And Sasha says that, you know, being Bayley's friend is hard because it just eats Bayley up inside. That she is nowhere near as talented as Sasha Banks. That Sasha carried that tag team. And Sasha's really just laying it on thick. And, you know, Sasha basically goes on to say that she can't be bothered with the dead weight anymore. And that her goal is to end the tyrannical reign over the women's division of Becky Lynch. And that, you know, Becky Lynch is another one that Sasha's known for a long time. And, you know, she goes on to say that Becky isn't exactly who she presents herself to be either. That she's a conniving, backstabbing little bitch. And that, of course, would get a pop from the WWE Universe for using bitch on national television. And she challenges Becky to a match at Money in the Bank for the WWE Raw Women's Championship. And before she can kind of continue, Bayley's music hits, and Bayley comes out, and Bayley is just hurt by the betrayal of Sasha. She puts over the fact that she considered her to be her best friend, that, you know, she was going to ask her to be her maid of honor in her wedding, that, you know, she's laying it on thick. And Bayley's kind of like, you know, I've never been jealous. As a matter of fact, you've been the jealous one. Like, you've been the one that, you know, has always been concerned with being in the spotlight, and you've been the one that, you know, always takes credit for everything, and, you know, kind of tells it like it is, even though, you know, perception is reality when it comes to these things. Like, each one of them is perceiving it, but at the end of the day, you know, both of them are, you know, big women stars. Like, they have egos. So, you know, and then Bayley says, you know, not so fast. I deserve a championship shot as well, at Money in the Bank, and I want my title shot. I was just as much a part of this tag team as you were, and I've done just as much to deserve a shot at Becky, and I think that it's what the people want, and that, of course, would get a huge ovation, with Bayley, you know, being the babyface here, and then Edge's music hits as he comes out to the ring, and he says that, you know, he sees an opportunity here, with all four of these women, as a matter of fact, and that opportunity is pretty simple. We have a Money in the Bank women's ladder match coming up at the pay-per-view, and Raw does not have its competitors picked out for that match yet. So, with that being said, right here tonight, we will see Sasha Banks versus Bayley. Gets a huge pop from the crowd. And then Edge goes on to say that the winner of that match will face Becky Lynch for the WWE Raw Women's Championship at Money in the Bank. And the loser will be entered into the Money in the Bank ladder match. And then, Edge can kind of see the reaction on Alexa and Lacey, as both of them were just facing Becky for the Raw Women's title, and they're not that happy, even though they're a little bit happy that they have the tag team championships. But Edge goes, "Don't worry, ladies. You guys will have your opportunity at the Raw Women's Championship as well. But you'll have to qualify for the Money in the Bank ladder match. And in doing so, you're going to enjoy the competition in this newfound friendship that you have. Tonight it'll be Lacey Evans versus Dana Brooke for a Money in the Bank spot. And actually, as a matter of fact, Alexa, up next, you are going to be going one-on-one with a new signing. A signing that, we finalized here in WWE. And, I'm really excited about this signing. I think that this signing has a lot of potential. I actually think that this signing might even win the Money in the Bank ladder match after she beats you right here next. Alexa gets on the mic and says, "There's nobody in the world that can beat me. There's nobody in the world that is as good as me in the ring." And then she even turns to her partner Lacey and says, "No offense." Lacey, of course, gives her kind of almost like the people's eyebrow, like, "What are you talking about there?" And Edge goes, "Oh, well, I think I actually found somebody that can." And here she is. And that is when this woman's music hits and she emerges from the back. Rosemary, a.k.a. Courtney Rush. I haven't decided if I'm going to use Courtney Rush or if I'm going to use Rosemary. Either way, she's here in WWE. And she makes her debut. This was kind of like that stuff I couldn't show you. I had been kind of booking her in dark matches just to kind of build her popularity up enough that I could make this debut and not anger the rest of the women. If I decided to have her win matches or whatever against, the likes of, like a Alexa or, Bayley, Sasha, etc., etc., etc. So, Rosemary is one of the top female workers, in the world, obviously. So, it makes sense that she would come in with a lot of momentum. So I made that possible by, booking her in those dark matches. So it was a lot of squash matches and shit like that. I just didn't want you guys to be able to see that. So this, of course, would clear the ring, and we would go right into our match, Alexa Bliss versus Rosemary. And in a little bit of a shocker for you guys, Rosemary picks up the victory in a pretty good match between these two, actually. It gets a C rating. Rosemary defeats Alexa Bliss by submission with the Spider's Twist. So Rosemary, the first Raw women's competitor to book herself a match in the Money in the Bank, or to book herself a spot in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And so pretty long chunk here, women's segment, and actually got two strong ratings with it. So my women are starting to kind of build up and get over. And in a surprise on all accounts, Rosemary is here, and Rosemary is in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And Alexa is she's furious. So she just stomps. Shut up, Alexa. I keep saying Alexa, and my Alexa in the background is like talking to me. So Bliss is furious. And she just kind of, after the match, just stomps up, carrying her tag team championship, and she's just pouting all the way to the backstage area. From there, we get an angle between Tyler Breeze and Dolph Ziggler, continuing on their story. Tyler Breeze would come out to the ring, have an in-ring promo where he would boast about his recent success and his recent defenses of the Intercontinental Championship, specifically a beating of a legend the likes of Jim Duggan. Goes down as one of the most historic Intercontinental Championship defenses that WWE has had in recent memory. And, Tyler Breeze interrupts and comes down to the ring, and Ziggler says that he's proven over the weeks by beating legends like Jim Duggan that he is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. But Ziggler says that what Tyler Breeze hasn't done is proven that he's a worthy contender. Yes, Breeze has been given this opportunity to face Dolph Ziggler at Money in the Bank for the Intercontinental title, but that Ziggler is not impressed with Tyler Breeze's in-ring action. So Tyler Breeze, or Dolph Ziggler wants to see more out of Tyler Breeze, and he wants to see more here tonight. So Breeze says, that's fine, I'll beat anybody. And Ziggler kind of goes, well, that's good, because, I actually handpicked your opponent for you right here tonight, and I will be doing commentary so that I can get an up-close and personal look at you inside the ring with this opponent. Oh, by the way, your opponent is Bobby Lashley. And so Tyler Breeze kind of just, has that look on his face like, all right, I get Bobby Lashley and you face fucking 60-year-old Jim Duggan. Like, what the fuck is this? So, this is just obvious, heel stuff from Ziggler. Also, if you guys have not noticed, I really like guest commentary. I have no idea why WWE got away from it. They don't do it nearly as much as I feel like they should. But guest commentary is such a good way to just put heat on a feud. And the problem with feuds nowadays is that these guys are constantly just beating up on each other and fighting and all that, and sometimes that's needed. Like, it is what it is. But to my recollection, and I could be wrong, I'd have to go back, but I don't think I've had these two even touch yet. A lot of it has just been based on, these funny little segments like, Breeze being the Prince of Pretty, Ziggler thinking that he's the best looking guy, them fighting about their looks, which then morphed into this competition of, I'm going to pick your opponent, you're going to pick my opponent, I'm going to pick your opponent, I'm better than you sort of thing. But they haven't touched each other yet. Like, there's been no physical contact. And we've been building this for like 5 or 6 weeks now. So, guest commentary is like the best way to do that. Like, I mean, Ziggler now is going to go get to talk for like 15 minutes and just shit on Tyler Breeze. And it's such a good thing that WWE does not utilize enough. And maybe I do it too much, as I've already had. This will be my second guest commentary of the night. But both of them made total sense. The Bobby Roode, Chad Gable story. Roode is out there talking about his partner, and he's kind of like explaining from his point of view why Gable's frustrating him. And now this is just a way for Ziggler to get on commentary and to explain why he's the greatest Intercontinental Champion. And, you would have I feel like you would have a lot of good interaction between, like, Michael Cole, Renee Young, and Dolph Ziggler. With Cole and Young basically saying, like, dude, you beat a 60-year-old retired dude that should be in a wheelchair. And, like, Tyler Breeze is out here facing Bobby Lashley. Like, there's no comparison between those two opponents. So that brings us right into the match between the two. And Lashley does pick up the victory over Tyler Breeze by chokeslam after a distraction from Ziggler. So how this would kind of go would be Breeze would be getting momentum in the match. Lashley, it would be kind of looking like Breeze is maybe going to pick up the victory, and Ziggler would kind of get on the ring apron maybe while Breeze is distracting the ref. You spit some water in the face of Lashley's distracting the ref. Spit some water in the face of Tyler Breeze, and kind of stumbles backwards into the chokeslam, getting the victory over Breeze. And of course, Breeze would be just staring down Ziggler as Ziggler left up the ramp with the Intercontinental title. And they still have not had contact. So we go on to like week 6 of this feud. And they still haven't even touched each other. So learn to build better, WWE. Up next, we get Bray Wyatt. And Bray Wyatt's in the ring. And as we saw last week on air, as we went off the air, Bray and Braun, Braun just beats the shit out of him, and Bray just gets up laughing. So Edge made a match between those two here tonight, which we will see up next. And Bray comes out and says that it felt really good to be destroyed by Braun Strowman. And for as tough as he is, it's still not enough for Bray. And Bray wants this upcoming match to be no disqualification. And that, of course, is going to bring Braun out. And Braun stands at the top of the ring entrance on the stage and just nods his head. He doesn't need a microphone. Like, Braun's a badass. Like, he doesn't need a mic. He doesn't need to talk. He doesn't need anything. Bray said, "Give me no disqualification." Braun said, "Okay," and just shakes his head. And we go right into that match between Braun and Bray Wyatt. And these two kind of brawl all over the place. And Braun ends up getting the victory over Bray Wyatt. And after the match, Braun again puts Bray Wyatt through the Spanish announce table, and kind of just leaves Bray in a heap of rubble, and walks away. And as we are kind of looking at the carnage. A few moments pass by, and Bray Wyatt kind of gets back to his knees, and he crawls into the ring, and he kind of just is laying on his back with the microphone, just kind of looking up at the sky, and just kind of saying, like, everybody has hit me with their best shot, and I am still not getting what I need. I'm still not feeling, I'm still not feeling it. I'm still not back to the old Bray Wyatt. And, I need more. And as he's talking, he's getting back to his feet, and, he's standing on his feet. And as he's talking, the lights go out. And Bray Wyatt is talking through the lights being out, and he's kind of like, ooh, the boogeyman is here, and kind of just really putting over the fact that, he's just mocking, the fear, and Wyatt's still putting over the fact that he wants to feel a certain level of pain to get the old Bray Wyatt back. And as the lights come on, standing behind Bray Wyatt is none other than The Undertaker. Bray Wyatt turns around, looks as though he's seen a ghost. The Undertaker lifts Bray Wyatt up, drills him with a devastating tombstone, grabs the microphone, simply says, "At Super Showdown, I will come for your soul. At Super Showdown, I will bury you alive, Bray Wyatt." He drops the microphone, and he walks away. The Undertaker is back, ladies and gentlemen. He's got a B-. And newsflash, I am not ever booking Bill Goldberg in a match. Like, fuck Bill Goldberg. And I'm certainly not booking that atrocity that occurred at Super Showdown. And I was building to this with the Bray character for quite some time. I really don't think that WWE really ever gave this everything it could have been. And I'm not using Undertaker as a full-time character. He's way too old. He should really be retired. But I am going to use him 3 shows out of the year. I will give you a spoiler and let you know that those 3 shows, until he finally does officially retire in this game, are going to be WrestleMania, Super Showdown, and Crown Jewel. Those are the 2 overseas events, and then of course WrestleMania. So Undertaker returns, tombstones Bray Wyatt, and lays out essentially what is a challenge for Bray Wyatt's soul. Up next, we get our singles match between Sasha Banks and Bayley. This goes about 18 minutes. So very maybe a little too long. I might have gone a couple of minutes too long. Either that, or I shouldn't have done this as an all-out. But both of them were apparently visibly tiring toward the end. But Sasha Banks defeats Bayley with the bank statement. So Sasha Banks will be taking on Becky Lynch at Money in the Bank for the Raw Women's Championship. And Bayley will be entered into the Money in the Bank ladder match for the women's briefcase. After the match, as Sasha is kind of celebrating and happy, going up the rampway, Bayley would kind of be kneeling in the ring, maybe holding her arm, selling the fact that the bank statement was put on, and then Sasha would be kind of almost at the top of the rampway when the famous "oh" would hit, and Becky would come out at the top of the ramp, and Sasha would slowly turn around, and these two women would face off. And, for as cocky and brash and confident as Sasha was earlier, the realization would kind of start to set in a little bit that, like, yeah, you beat Bayley, but now you're about to go to war with the man. And you are talking about the woman that did beat Charlotte and Ronda in the same night at WrestleMania. And you're talking about the woman that has just been on a tear across the women's division for quite some time. So they no contact. They just stare each other down. They talk some trash. It's inaudible trash, though. They're not on the microphone or anything. It's just a face-off between these two. So it gets a C plus. And then from there, we would go right into a backstage segment of Lacey and Alexa. They would be watching this on the monitor. And Alexa would, of course, be kind of really disappointed. But she would kind of wish Lacey the best of luck here tonight against Dana Brooke. And Lacey kind of goes on to say, I'll be in that Money in the Bank ladder match. And I'll bring the briefcase to our team. And will end the reign of Becky Lynch or Sasha Banks, and together we'll just carry all of the gold. So that being said, we go right into that match, which is not a very good match, as Dana Brooke isn't the greatest worker ever, but it's a real quick match, 8 minutes. Lacey goes over, and there's no way I was putting Dana Brooke into a Money in the Bank ladder match. It was always throwing Lacey in there. So the three competitors on the Raw side, we know who they are now. They are Lacey Evans, Bayley, and the debuting Rosemary / Courtney Rush. Haven't fully decided on that on the name yet. So D plus in this match. From there, we would get a in-ring segment. It would start off with Kevin Owens coming down to the ring, and he guarantees victory in the Money in the Bank ladder match at the pay-per-view. He says that he will become the briefcase holder, and he will become the most coveted superstar on the WWE roster, not just on Raw, but on SmackDown too, because neither champion will be safe. Neither champion will know if he's going to cash in the briefcase either on Raw or on SmackDown. This, of course, would bring Finn Balor out. Finn Balor kind of would say, not so fast. It's his time. He's the true Universal Champion, as technically, Finn points out that he still has never been pinned or was never beaten for that Universal title. Finn Balor won the championship years ago, and then had to forfeit the title. That Kevin Owens picked up where Finn Balor should have been, and that Kevin Owens took Finn Balor's spot. That was meant to be him, and Finn hasn't forgotten that, and it eats at him. It eats him alive to know that, an injury is what took the title away from him, not a superstar. Um, so this then would bring out Drew McIntyre, who starts off by stating that it's his time. That he was way too young back when he debuted, and that his time in Japan, his time overseas, his time on the independent scene has really taught him everything about being a professional wrestler, and that he wishes that he had taken the path of Kevin Owens and Finn Balor instead of being thrust, directly into, the WWE conglomerate. But it is what it is. But now he's united with the Kingdom, that they are a united front. Jinder Mahal, he guarantees that Jinder will go on to defeat Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. And then McIntyre will cash in the briefcase on the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, and that the Kingdom will own both championships, and that this year will be the year of the Kingdom. And then Bray Wyatt would appear on the Titantron, beaten, battered, but still like this sick, twisted smile. And Bray comes on the Titantron, and he's laughing. And he basically tells the world that when you're dealing with a man who doesn't feel any more pain, when you're dealing with a man who is lost, a man who has nothing left to live for, that is a dangerous man. And Bray admits he has no intentions of winning the Money in the Bank. He has no intentions of climbing a ladder to grab a silly little briefcase, to placate to, the universe, to placate to the fans, to placate to, Edge's little sick, twisted game, to have, the championship mean the most. And he basically says that he's just gonna go in there and create carnage, and simply be the last man standing, and says that it's going to be a war of attrition, so to speak. And then this would bring Edge out to the top of the ramp, and Edge would say that, these four men do represent something a little more than their own individual desires to be champions. They do represent, getting the briefcase for the Raw brand. And Edge does say that he wants to see all four of these men in action next week. So it will be Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre against Finn Balor and Bray Wyatt. But before Drew McIntyre, before you can really worry about that, you've got to worry about, this man who you have a match with next. And that brings Seth Rollins out. And, Owens, of course, would get a kick out of this. He would start laughing, and basically drop the microphone and wishes Drew McIntyre the best of luck, as Rollins would make his entrance, which would bring us basically right into the main event. This segment got us a B, so a very solid segment, and goes right into our main event. Holy shit. I did not expect this rating. I almost got an A-rated match on Monday Night Raw, guys. Holy shit. So Seth Rollins defeats Drew McIntyre by disqualification when Wade Barrett and Jinder Mahal run in and attack Seth Rollins. holy shit, guys. Like, Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre tore the fucking house down. I'm happy about this. B fucking plus. That is good shit right there. And they run in, they do the beatdown on Rollins, which of course would then lead us right into Roman Reigns coming in for the save, and essentially this just turns into a crazy Pier 6 3-on-2 brawl. Maybe Reigns comes in with a chair and takes some people out. We would get just fighting all over the arena. As chaos is going on. Michael Cole, Corey Graves, they're putting over the fact that it's chaos, and Cole is like, "We gotta go, ladies and gentlemen. Like, we're going off the air, WWE or WCW style. Like, just end the segment in the middle of the segment. Just go right off the air." But I think it'd be pretty cool just to have, guys just brawling all over the arena. The copyright goes up, and we leave the crowd with that big brawl. So strong ending to the show. B plus B as we go off the air from Monday Night Raw, and you're not going to see the next screen. Actually, I think you can. Well, if I black it out, I black it out. B-rated show again. Increased our popularity in 26 regions. Yeah, I'm not hiding anybody, so you can see it. I just booked some matches in the pre-show, and I just didn't know if I was hiding like a debut or something like that, like I did last time. But very solid show. This actually might have gotten a B plus had I put anybody other than Dana Brooke in there against Lacey Evans. This killed it. Everything else was a C minus or better. So very solid show. Sellout crowd, 12,000 people. So very good Raw. As the Kingdom and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns continue to just wage war all over Monday Night Raw. So up next is a show the WWE Universe likes to call SmackDown Live, and we will see you then. We opened SmackDown Live with the ring entrance of HBK Shawn Michaels. He comes down to the ring. He has returned from the injuries that he sustained from Brock Lesnar. He's still kind of wearing a little bit of the effects of it. Maybe he's got a bandage on the head from where he was kind of busted open or whatever. But HBK gets a microphone, and he has a very serious look on his face. And he is serious in regards to getting right down to business. He gets on the mic and immediately goes on to, talk about Brock Lesnar. Talk about Brock Lesnar. We are in the hometown of San Antonio, so we're in HBK's hometown. Huge pop, and he gets right down to business. He calls out Brock Lesnar, and after a few moments, it's just silence. Brock doesn't answer the call out, so HBK demands that Lesnar comes out, or else HBK will suspend Brock Lesnar indefinitely. It's at that time that that Lesnar's face appears on the Titantron, as he has this kind of sick, sinister smile on his face. And as the camera kind of pans out, it reveals that we're in a living room, and immediately Shawn Michaels' face becomes very concerned. And as the camera pans to the left, we see the famous, boyhood dream shot of Shawn Michaels winning the World Wrestling Federation Championship from Bret Hart all those many years ago at WrestleMania. And, it's very uneasy feeling comes over the San Antonio crowd as we start to realize that we are in the home of Shawn Michaels. And, just then, Shawn Michaels' wife, Rebecca, walks into the living room, and, she obviously lets out a scream as, Brock Lesnar grabs her and, gets her into a position where he kind of has her arm like he's going to lock in the Kimura, but he doesn't fully kind of wrench it into place. He's kind of just leaving it, without putting the pressure, but an obviously concerning situation as HBK is flipping out in the center of the ring, basically saying, what do you want? What do you want? Paul Heyman goes on to cut, a vicious promo. My client, Brock Lesnar, wants what is due to him, a rematch at a heavyweight champion, a heavyweight championship, and Brock Lesnar has chosen to make SmackDown his home, so he wants a shot at the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Or else, my client, Brock Lesnar, is going to break your wife's arm right here on national television, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And, HBK tries to kind of hard bargain with him at first, but of course, Brock's going to kind of, twist the arm a little bit more, kind of maybe lock it in a little bit harder. Rebecca's going to scream, and then finally Shawn just breaks, and he says, you got it. You got your match. You got your match. Just don't hurt my wife. You got your match. And, just as Shawn gives it to him, Brock has a sinister look on his face, and Shawn knows what's about to happen, and Shawn grabs the microphone again, and he says, Paul, if your client, I see what he's thinking about doing. He's thinking about breaking her arm anyway. If he does that, not only will you be fired immediately from WWE, but I will press charges, and I will have him thrown in jail, and I will sue the hell out of you and your client, Brock Lesnar. And of course, Paul, being the being very, 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 very savvy with the law, decides that it's probably smart. We came and got what we came for, kind of deal. Lesnar releases Rebecca as the two kind of walk out of the house, and HBK kind of just drops to his knees in the ring and just drops the microphone, and there's no entrance music, there's nothing. He kind of just makes a beeline for the exit, and the cameras kind of follow him kind of running through the backstage area as Shawn gets in a pickup truck and just leaves the arena. Like, he doesn't talk to anybody, he doesn't do anything, he just leaves. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is your opening segment. And as you can see, it got an A rating. So I believe this is only our second A-rated segment. The first was between Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. So this A-rated segment right here, between these three and Lesnar upping the violence and really upping the ante against Shawn Michaels. From there, we're going to get a quick cut to the locker room of one Daniel Bryan. And this is one of those where it's a quick cut. Daniel Bryan watching on the monitor the action that just occurred. He's standing by with Andrea DeMarco. And, Andrea DeMarco kind of just says, stunning, what we just saw. What are your thoughts on what we saw? And, Daniel Bryan says, he feels for HBK, who is a mentor to him, who is the guy that trained him, the guy that really got him into the wrestling business, and he is a dear friend of Daniel Bryan's. That unfortunately Bryan is all focus and all business as he prepares for the Money in the Bank ladder match in just 2 weeks. And then Andrea DeMarco asks him if part of that focus is on his upcoming singles match with Cesaro, one of the other participants in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And Daniel Bryan says that everybody's going to get a preview of, just how focused he is when he faces Cesaro up next. So, focused Daniel Bryan, which brings us right into our first match of the night, which gets a B rating. And in a good match, Bryan and Cesaro, they go back and forth. They go about 18 minutes. And Bryan gets the victory with the yes lock, and basically goes over. This is just to kind of build the tension between two guys that are going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Two singles, or two guys in that match in a singles match to kick off SmackDown Live. Gets us a solid B rating. So that's really a good rating for our first match on Raw. From there, we go to a backstage angle featuring Shayna Baszler, Sonya Deville, and Mandy Rose. The three of them are kind of sitting in their locker room watching a recap of last week's SmackDown Live with the return of Asuka. And these three women are not happy with Asuka's return. They vow revenge on Asuka, and Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville say that they'll get it started next week in tag team action when they face off against Becky Lynch and Asuka, and they tell Shayna that they'll make sure that they soften up Asuka in preparation for their rematch. So Shayna, says that they better get the job done. So just an angle to kind of keep that story going with the Horsewomen of the Apocalypse. From there, we go to a backstage interview with Kathy Kelly. She is kind of talking to The Miz in regards to his feud with Andrade and the injury to Maurice. We get an update on Maurice's health, and The Miz basically says that she's at home recovering. She's on bed rest, but all looks good. And just to keep her safe, The Miz doesn't want her at ringside anymore, and he's going to be going at it alone. And then The Miz further goes on to basically say that Andrade and Selena Vega have what is coming to them later tonight in a big 6-man tag match, which will see The Miz, Johnny Gargano, and Ricochet against Andrade, Austin Aries, and Sheamus. So the Miz vows revenge. Gets a C minus. From there, we go out to the ring, where we have the Usos, and the Usos are standing in the ring as they are on the mic, and they say that this is week 1, so anybody in the back that has got the balls to come out and face the Usos, why don't you bring it and step into the Uso penitentiary? So a few moments pass by. Nobody answers the challenge. And Jimmy and Jay start laughing, and they say, all y'all a bunch of girls in the back. Like, nobody's coming out here. Nobody wants to step up to the Usos. Nobody wants to. And then the music of these two gentlemen hit. The current NXT Tag Team Champions, the War Raiders. That's right. In my universe, they're still the War Raiders because that is their rightful name. But Hanson and Rowe answer the call as they come out. And, they get in the ring. And the Usos kind of just nod their heads like, okay, all right, we see you. We see you. This gets a C, which brings us right into the match. And it is a pretty good match between these two teams. The Usos do pick up the victory. They do defend their tag titles, but in a little bit harder of a match than I'm sure that they anticipated. They go 15 minutes back and forth, but they do get the victory over Rowe with a double super kick. And trying to see if there's anything there that's important. Nothing really important there. But a good solid match. Gets a C+ for these 4 guys. Kind of just rubs the War Raiders with the main roster. I haven't called them up yet, but I just borrowed them from development for this one angle. Up next is an interview with Andrade. We heard what the Miz had to say earlier, and Andrea DeMarco standing by with Andrade and Zelina Vega. And, Andrade openly states he wanted to ensure, by taking out Maurice, that if the Miz were to become the United States champion, it would be easy for him to get a shot at the U.S. title. And Andrade furthermore says that he would love to be the one to end the Miz's title reign if he were to get by Johnny Gargano at Money in the Bank. He also says that he is excited about his tag team partners here tonight, Sheamus and Austin Aries, and that the 3 of them are going to do to Ricochet, Gargano, and The Miz exactly what he did to Maurice last week, which is put them on the shelf. So this interview got a C, just kind of moving that storyline, continuing it, and getting some mic and screen time for Andrade and Zelina. From there, we get a little backstage locker room segment with Becky and Asuka, as Becky says to Asuka that she is happy that she's back, that she had a full recovery from the beating that Shayna Baszler gave her at Starrcade. And then Becky says that, next week that she'll have Asuka's back against the Horsewomen. Let's go out there and get the job done. So just a quick little, angle between 2 workers that respect each other. I get to C rating, which brings us to our next match, which is that big 6-man tag. And it goes about 15 minutes, solid action. But Andrade, Austin Aries, and Sheamus do pick up the victory over The Miz and stage dives and high fives. When Austin Aries pins Ricochet by pinfall after a distraction from Zelina Vega. So Zelina Vega gets involved in this one and makes her presence felt, and gets the victory, and allows Austin Aries to get the victory for their team. Solid match, B rating. All these guys had a great performance. The weakest link in this was Gargano, but I've already got him up to a C. So when I called him up and he started off, he was at an E plus. So booking him very strongly, and the momentum continues to carry, as Gargano and The Miz teaming tonight. But in just a couple of weeks, they will be facing each other in the finals for the U.S. Championship. Up next, we get a backstage interview. Kathy Kelly is standing by with Eddie Edwards, who previously was on Raw. But Eddie Edwards is here to announce that he is now a member of the SmackDown Live roster, that he's excited for the new start, and he can't wait to get going. And in the middle of his interview, Sami Zayn walks by and who lets him know, don't get too comfortable here on SmackDown Live, because in just a couple of weeks, this show is going to change dramatically. It's not going to be a happy workplace anymore when Sami's running it. And when Sami becomes the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, he'll be the one calling the shots. And then he basically tells Eddie, watch how things are done on Sami's SmackDown Live, and watch what I go do to Xavier Woods. Which brings us right into our match between Sami and Xavier Woods. And another really good match. Like, holy shit. This one goes 12 minutes, and Sami Zayn does pick up the victory over Xavier Woods with a haluva kick. And Sami and Xavier had great chemistry together, and it showed in their performance. So Sami up to a B now, which is really, really, really good. So obviously the push I'm giving him is working. The match gets a B rating, which is good. And if you remember, this all started last week with Xavier guaranteeing a victory over Sami. He was going to soften him up for Kofi Kingston. That apparently did not go according to plan, which brings us into our next angle, which features Big E and Kofi, as we kind of fade out from the monitor shot as we see these two were watching in the locker room area. Big E basically says, don't worry, he'll take care of business next week on SmackDown Live and do what Xavier couldn't do, which is beat Sami Zayn and soften him up before the big championship match at Money in the Bank. Kofi says, thanks, but he's just intent on watching Sami celebrate through the monitor, which brings us into our main event of SmackDown Live, which is AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. Another B-rated match between these two, and crazy enough, I haven't used AJ that much, so Shinsuke's actually more over than AJ is, apparently. And about that, I had great wrestling, good heat. AJ Styles defeats Shinsuke Nakamura in 23 minutes with a springboard 450 splash. And again, this is just a second of two singles matches between the Money in the Bank competitors. Earlier, we saw Daniel Bryan get some momentum going into that ladder match by defeating Cesaro. And now, so AJ Styles will now pick up some momentum as AJ defeats Shinsuke here tonight on SmackDown. And nothing crazy about this main event. I just wanted a good match between two good guys that are about to be in a big match, on the pay-per-view. And that is it for this week's episode of SmackDown Live. We will see you guys next week. And we'll see you guys for 205 Live. I realize that I always say goodbye on SmackDown when I really should say goodbye on 205 Live. But it's funny because 205 Live is actually the first thing that I book during the week, and then I book Raw, and then it's booking SmackDown. So it's kind of a little backwards. But anyway, see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in. Next week is the go home edition of Raw, SmackDown, and 205 Live, the last shows before the big pay-per-view, Money in the Bank. So the first pay-per-view event, I know we had a network special, but this will be the first big pay-per-view event of this series. And as you can tell, now we're kind of picking up some momentum. The stories are kind of starting to tell themselves here, and I'm sure you guys are starting to pick up a little bit of what I'm laying down with each of these stories that I'm telling. So another good show, I assume, with this being a B rating. I am hiding some things on this next screen, so you guys will probably just look at Shawn Michaels again. But I will tell you that this was a B+ show, so that is our best show so far. A B+. It increased our popularity in 26 regions. So pretty awesome show for a SmackDown Live. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Here we are with another bullshit dubbed edition of 205 Live. I am super hopeful that I finally got all this microphone shit. I had to uninstall the program that I use for recording, reinstall it again. I don't know, there was some sort of glitch. But anyway, we open up the show with Buddy Murphy in the ring. And he comes down and, has a few words and calls out Kushida, who, as we saw on Monday night, defeated Mustafa Ali in the finals of the Cruiserweight tournament. So it'll be Buddy Murphy and Kushida for the Cruiserweight Championship. And Kushida comes out, and Buddy Murphy says that, he's no Mustafa Ali. And when they face off in the ring against each other, that it doesn't matter what Kushida did in Japan, Murphy's going to take him out. Kushida, before he can even do anything, William Regal comes out and announces that tonight we're going to see a tag match. It's going to be Kushida and Ali versus Murphy and Drew Gulak. And then the Cruiserweight Championship match will take place next week on Monday Night Raw. Kushida versus Buddy Murphy for the Cruiserweight title. And that'll be on the go-home edition of Raw. Unfortunately, Money in the Bank, I'd love to have the Cruiserweight match on Money in the Bank. But I also have 38 matches on Money in the Bank. So that card is super packed. So like I said, I'm getting some of these undercard titles up to where I can, have them in really strong positions on the weekly shows like Raw and SmackDown, so that some of the undercard feuds that don't have a title involved can get some good strong play on the pay-per-views. And so this is just a little segment to hype up that Cruiserweight Championship match. It gets a D-. From there, we go into our first match. Akira Tozawa versus Jack Gallagher. And a little back-and-forth contest. And Gallagher gets the victory over Akira Tozawa. So just a strong match between two good up-and-coming cruiserweights. I've had Gallagher lose a lot in this save, and Tozawa win a lot. So this is kind of just to get Gallagher some positive momentum back in his side, and gets us kicked off with a good solid match and a C rating to start off 205 Live. From there, we go to a backstage segment. We saw these two shake hands on Monday Night Raw, and here they are again in the backstage area, showing mutual respect to one another. And Ali, says, "I'm going to have your back later tonight." But in return, when you beat Buddy Murphy, which I'm sure you'll beat him next Monday night, I want the first shot at the Cruiserweight Championship. And Kushida kind of bows his head in a show of respect and agrees as they kind of go their separate ways. Then we get our angle with the Brian Kendrick. So Brian Kendrick comes out and he announces to everybody that despite doing this for 20-something years, that the business has changed, and that he's seen a passing of the guard, and that Brian Kendrick is stepping down and retiring. That he's going to move down to NXT and continue to train and work with some of the up-and-coming stars, but his time inside of the ring, taking the poundings and the beatings and the bumps and the bruises, is over. Tony Nese's music hits, and Nese comes out and basically, calls Brian Kendrick, scared. Says that Kendrick is just scared and pissed off that guys like Tony Nese are here and taking the spotlight and proving that Kendrick is nothing more than an overrated hack. That he's nothing more than this old bum that can't hang with the new group of cruiserweights. And of course, this bothers Brian Kendrick. So Kendrick says, "You know what? I'm retiring, but I got one more match in me, and that match is gonna be right now, and it's gonna be against you, Tony Nese. And I'm gonna teach you a thing or two, and I'm gonna kick your ass all over this arena." So essentially, just an upcoming match. And again, I just don't know how long these go. So, we're going to go right into the match. And Tony Nese picks up the victory over Brian Kendrick in Brian Kendrick's last match. So I'm a big believer in, when somebody retires, you do a job on the way out the door. I'm having Kendrick retire because I really just don't have a place for him on this roster. He's old. His skills are diminishing. His contract was up for renewal. I thought about not signing him, but then I signed him to like a 1-year deal. But when I did, it's like, I've taken a beating in the business. I can only work, I don't want to work house shows anymore. So he wanted like a reduced schedule, and I said, fuck that. So I'm just gonna send him to NXT to train. So I wanted Murphy, or not Murphy. I'm sorry. I wanted Tony Nese to get a victory and get some momentum. Kendrick is one of the more higher rated cruiserweights, but I just don't really have anything for him. I've got a couple of solid baby faces. I've got a couple of solid heels, and he just doesn't fit into my plans with this division moving forward. So rather than just have him sit there, he's got all of the makings for a good trainer in regards to the game. So I'll just send him down to NXT or over to NXT UK, and have him train some people there. And on his way out the door, he basically puts Buddy, I keep calling him Buddy Murphy. He puts Tony Nese over, as I feel like you should when you retire or you go out the door. Like a lot of people were upset, when Angle jobbed his final match. And, I actually agree with it. I don't agree with the opponent, but I agree with putting the guy that is staying over on your way out the door, because what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to build a star. Now, I'm not saying that I'm building a star with Tony Nese, but it certainly gives him momentum. From there, we get our match between Kushida and Ali versus Buddy Murphy and Drew Gulak. And in a back and forth contest, Buddy Murphy and Drew Gulak are going to pick up the victory. And how they are going to do that is, Ali's going to start off the match. He's going to tag in Kushida. Kushida's going to take a big brunt of the heat in the middle of the match. And just as he's kind of making a little bit of a comeback to make the tag into Mustafa Ali, he's going to kind of lunge toward Ali and, go to make the tag. And Ali is just going to drop off of the ring apron, kind of turning his back on Kushida and walking away. And this, he just walks up the ramp as Kushida just looks stunned, which of course leaves Kushida 2-on-1 versus Murphy and Gulak. And they kind of pick him apart for the remainder of the match. This would happen toward the end of the match, so it's not like he would be in there for 10 minutes or something like that by himself. But they kind of finish him off and get the victory. My reasoning for this is that I'm really positioning Kushida as the top babyface of 205 Live, and I'm gonna basically position Ali as the top heel. Kushida does not have a very good heel performance, so it was one or the other, and Kushida's a better babyface, so keep him as the face, and move Ali and position Ali for that top heel role here on 205 Live. We don't really get an explanation, but we certainly will in the future. And it is just a way to build up some heat going into that Cruiserweight Championship match, and turn Ali heel in the process. So that is the episode here of 205 Live in terms of in-ring competition. Up next is going to be a pre-recorded video segment with William Regal announcing a huge series. I won't call it a tournament, but god damn, what the fuck did I talk about this first time around that this thing is still going? Like, I don't even understand what I possibly could have been talking about here for 38 minutes, apparently. But yeah, apparently I just wanted to really sell the fact that Ali turned his back on Kushida when I originally recorded this without my sound going through. And I'll play with the mouse a little bit more, like I seem to always do. And all right, here we go. Well, here we go. We are going to go into the major announcement from William Regal, pre-recorded footage to end the show. Interesting way to end a show, but major announcement. William Regal, pre-recorded footage, announces a tournament that is going to be called the Origin Series. And what the Origin Series will be is a progression of matches to determine the future number one contender for the Cruiserweight Championship. It will feature 12 superstars from NXT, NXT UK, and 205 Live, competing in two different blocks, A block and B block. all over the world. So it'll take place. Matches will take place on Raw, and on 205 Live. Um, Victories. So how the series will work is that the 12 superstars will be in different variations of matches. You could have tag team matches, triple threat matches, or singles matches. And how the system is going to work is that victories in tag matches get each member of the winning team 1 point. Victories in a triple threat match gets the winner 2 points. Victories in a head to head match earn the winner 3 points. At the end of the series, the winner with the most points in each block will face off in a singles match to determine the number one contender for the Cruiserweight Championship. The list of competitors and blocks will be released this coming Monday Night Raw, with the first matches taking place next week on 205 Live. Matches will take place on Raw and 205 Live, as I said, and the series will continue all the way through June, with the points being added up and the winners of A block and B block facing off the first Raw in July. The Cruiserweight Championship will then be defended at Extreme Rules, with the Origin Series winner versus whomever the current Cruiserweight champion will be. So a huge announcement from William Regal. As I kind of have been pretty open with a lot of people, I have been watching a ton of Progress and a ton of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I just thought that this would be a really cool mixture of, New Japan's natural progression series mixed with, or I'm sorry, Progress's natural progression series mixed with New Japan's G1 Climax, mixed with how Progress did the Atlas tournament a few years back, where I'm taking the points and the mixed up tag matches, the A block, B block concept, but I'm also taking the natural progression, as it's going to feature 4 top stars from NXT and 4 top stars from NXT UK. And of course 4 guys from 205 Live. So I'll have like an A block and a B block. I will let you guys know on Raw next week what those blocks look like. But essentially, the competitors are going to be from 205 Live. It will be Akira Tozawa, Cedric Alexander, Drew Gulak, and Mustafa Ali. So that will be the competitors from 205 Live. The competitors from NXT will be Roderick Strong, the Velveteen Dream, Alex Shelley, and Adam Cole. So Alex Shelley, kind of the big surprise there. I actually signed him to a 3-month contract, specifically just for this tournament. Like, I actually don't plan on keeping him and don't plan on using him much past this. But I wanted like a well-known, really good top worker. And I want these guys obviously to be cruiserweights. I didn't really have anybody like that would fit that 205 Live mold in NXT that's kind of over enough. Obviously, I'm not going to have like random people just show up: Roderick Strong, Velveteen Dream, Adam Cole, and then like a random jobber guy. And then, of course, from NXT UK will be Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, El Ligero, and the signing of Marty Scurll. So another thing, as you know, in watching Progress, I've started from chapter 1. I really like Skrull in New Japan as well too, but I really fell in love with Marty Skrull. I think he is a fucking amazing worker, and I think that this is a good way to kind of bring him into the fold and kind of bring him into this origin series. And essentially, it is a good way to get these 12 guys who are basically like bitching and kicking down the door to get the call up from NXT and NXT UK, but I didn't really have anything for any of them to really do right now. So this was a good way to bring that all in and give them some TV time, continue to build them up, and like I said, get them over on television and see what all these guys can do. So 12 guys, really good tournament. And I think that this is kind of a unique way where you get some tag matches, you get some triple threat matches, you get some singles matches, and really like the progression concept that New Japan and Progress have kind of used in the past with the point systems and the blocks and all that other stuff. So the how these 12 guys are going to be split up will be announced on Raw. But now you know the 12 guys. Once again, 205 Live, Akira Tozawa, Cedric Alexander, Drew Gulak, Mustafa Ali, Roderick Strong, Velveteen Dream, Alex Shelley, Adam Cole, representing NXT, and representing the UK, NXT UK, is Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, El Ligero, and Marty Scurll, making his debut for WWE. I actually was not going to sign Scurll, and then I kind of fell in love with him and broke my little rule there and decided to sign him. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time, and the support and the follows are appreciated, and we will catch you on the flip side.